Welcome to the Community Living Education Project's Sharing Possibilities for Community Connections learning event. The Community Living Education Project, also known as CLEP, is a program through the Rutgers School of Public Health. CLEP is committed to providing individual guidance, mentoring, and education regarding community living resources for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The CLEP team can serve as a bridge for individuals and families who are ready to explore community residential options. Today's webinar, Assistive Technology for Low-Tech 3D and Non-3D Solutions, is session 10 of a year-long collaboration between Rutgers CLEP and the Richard West Assistive Technology Advocacy Center at Disability Rights, New Jersey. Today's bite-sized lunch series webinar is being presented by Mike Murata and Naomi Leibowitz, representing the Richard West Assistive Technology Advocacy Center. Before we get started, let's go over how you can best participate during today's webinar. To assure the highest sound quality possible, all attendees will initially be muted during today's event. And to interact with the host or presenters, please use the Q&A option on your screen. Please feel free to send us a message letting us know that you would like to be unmuted to ask your question live to either Mike or Naomi, and we'll be happy to unmute you during your turn. Also, if you have a great resource to offer, please feel free to share your ideas in the chat section of your Zoom control panel. We love keeping these sessions interactive. At this time, I'm happy to welcome today's presenters, Mike Murata and Naomi Leibowitz. Welcome.
Thanks, Melanie. Hello, everybody. Good to see you back again virtually for another one of our webinars. This one, like Melanie said, I'll go back to the front for a second. This is kind of I would call this a little departure from some of our other conversations. This idea of low-tech solutions, 3D printed solutions, custom-made solutions is a little different. This is very much in the spirit of assistive technology. Someone has a very specific need, and we create a one-off item to solve that problem. And so we'll share some of those examples as we go through. Unfortunately, you see on our main screen, we were hoping to have another presenter with us today, Scout Mary from the Assistive Technology Act project in Missouri, but unfortunately Scout is sick today, so he will not be with us. Hopefully, we do have his contact information in there that you can reach out to. As always, if you would like the slides, there they are. Naomi has dropped the link in the chat box for you to get. So you'll have access to all of the slides and all the information on them. You can also use the QR code on the left, scan that with your mobile device, and you will get the slides as well. Right. As Melanie said, we want you to join the conversation. So if you would like to, thank you, Richard. I hope he gets better too. I just saw him last week, and it's unfortunate that he came. We were at a conference together, had a chance to see each other, and he came home not feeling well. So that kind of stinks. As we go through, like Melanie said, if you'd like to join the conversation, you have a couple ways to do it. Like Richard just did, you can join in the chat. That's always available to you. If you want to turn on your mic and speak as part of the webinar, we would love that too. We're game for that as well. Just make a request and we will turn on your mic, and you can find a little pause where I take a breath or a drink of water, and you can jump right in. And please share your questions, comments, thoughts, whatever it might be. As Melanie said, my name is Mike Murata. I'm the director of our project, the Assistive Technology Advocacy Center. Naomi is with me. Naomi is in the chat, answering all your questions with lightning speed. She does an amazing job of that. We just came from our monthly staff meeting where we presented, and Naomi was a whiz in the chat, just dropping in resources for our staff. And I know she'll do the same thing here as well. Like I said, we're from Disability Rights, New Jersey. We are part of, we are at this point, the New Jersey Assistive Technology Act project. We are provided funding through the federal government to make sure people across New Jersey know what assistive technology is, know the power of it, and find ways that it could help them be more independent as they go forward. That is Scout. At some point, hopefully we can bring him back. And he can join the conversation as well. So Scout works for the ATAC equivalent in Missouri as a program coordinator for their Assistive Technology Act project. And this is definitely his wheelhouse of stuff. And so as we go forward, like I said, these are our basic kind of things that we do. We have some core services. We provide demonstrations for technology if you're not quite sure what you need. or a person you're working with needs, you can reach out. We can demonstrate technology, show you how things work, talk to you about what might meet your needs best. We have a loan program where you can borrow equipment. So if you know of something you'd like, you can borrow it free from us for 3 weeks at a time and try it. One of the beautiful things about the loan program, we send it to you and we give you all the information to send it back to us. This is a zero cost experience for you, which we really are proud of. And actually all of our service, the demos are free as well. Our device reuse is a partnership with Goodwill Home Medical down in Camden County, and they take in gently used durable medical equipment, refurbish it, clean it, fix it, do whatever they need to do, and then put it back out into the community for a highly reduced rate. So you can check all of that stuff out on our website. at4nj.org is our website. Again, we have a couple more of these coming up. Like Melanie said, I can't believe this is the 10th one already. I like it. We've gotten into a rhythm that I just know these are coming at the beginning of every month. They're very exciting. So we have a couple more left. We have on March 2nd, we're doing an introduction to augmentative and alternative communication. Then we're going to try a couple things a little different. We're going to have our session on April 6th is an open mic session. We're going to come ready for questions on anything we might have talked about already, and just have a good conversation about assistive technology. And then finally, we'll do our May 4th event. We'll do a lot of demos of tools for reading and writing. I know that was one of the topics we did earlier in the year, or earlier in the series, I should say. We are early in the year, early in the series. And so we'll do another kind of tech sharing out for some of those other resources about reading and writing. That's our plan. One more plug as we move forward. Actually, I think there might be two. I'm looking at my thing. There are two, even though it says one more plug. If you like learning this way, virtually learning at your own speed, at your own pace, if you're watching the recording, you definitely like doing this. The people here, thanks for taking time in your day. Our center has purchased a subscription to the Assistive Technology Industry Association Learning Center. And that is a web-based platform that has all recorded webinars about assistive technology. We have purchased the subscription for you, so you don't have to pay for it. And if you fill out our form that lives off of our website, we will give you a code that you can go to the Learning Center. You can drop any session in your cart, and then you can use our code and the cost will be zero to you. So it's just another way we're trying to find a way to make sure that people across New Jersey have access to the information they want to learn about regarding assistive technology. And Naomi will drop that in the chat if she hasn't already. Just two more things, and I promise we'll start. We're also hosting 2 live events about assistive technology coming up in the next couple months. So at the end of March, we have 2 different events. One of them is on a Saturday, March 25th. We're doing an inclusive technology in education conference, where the focus is assistive and inclusive technology to support people in K-12 education. And so that will be, both these events will be in West Windsor at Mercer Community College at their conference center there. And that is the 25th, is that one day, full day event. And then on March 30th and 31st, we have a 2-day live training, an introduction to POD. That is an augmentative and alternative communication system. Pragmatic, I did this before too, I think I have it right. Pragmatic organization of dynamic display communication. I might have that. I hope I have that right. I think it's right. It's a system of using some low-tech boards to provide dynamic communication options for people. And so we're going to host one of the national trainers for that. That is a 2-day event. Both of those events actually have a fee. We don't normally have fees for our events. These do. But definitely check them out on our website. All the information is there to sign up. And if it's not something you're interested in, please pass it along to others. Perhaps it might work for them. If you've been to any of our other sessions in this series, you know that we bring this one graphic up quite a bit. We talk a lot about technology. Sorry, my watch is joining the conversation. We talk a lot about technology in these sessions, but we always want to bring it back to this idea that, yes, the technology is important, but it might not be the most important thing. We look to make sure that people are using the technology that is appropriate for them. Not just the latest and greatest, but the thing that makes the most sense. And to do that, we explore this framework that matches people with technology called the SET framework, SETT. The S standing for the person. Now, again, we've added a label on top of this because this was designed for school-age children. And so that S was student. We've changed that to someone. So that's the person. What is the person's needs and abilities, their likes and dislikes, the things that they're kind of interested in pursuing, the environments of where they're going to use technology, the tasks they need to complete, and then finally the tools. I think when we find that people look at technology, assistive technology in this way, with this kind of lens, it leads to better matches of technology at the end because they're finding tools that work for them, for exactly what they're looking for. And so we put that out there to remind people that not every technology tool is going to work for everybody. Not everything's going to be aligned with what you need. I just said it in a meeting this morning that Naomi and I were in. When someone comes up to us and says, I don't like that technology, it stinks. What they're telling me is that technology doesn't stink, but it stinks for them. It's not aligned with what they need. And so we're really aware of making sure we're looking at the person's needs first, and then working along until we get to the fact of the tool at the very end. In this context of our discussion today, where we're talking about low-tech things, and a lot of times we're talking about modifying things or perhaps even building something from scratch, we wanted to drop this idea in this kind of pyramid idea of looking at the way we approach an accommodation with someone. And when we think about the tasks someone needs to do, we start with the no-tech option. Is there an alternate way that person can complete that task? Can't do it this way. Can they do it another way? And I don't have to put any technology in place, but perhaps just shift around the way they approach a task. Then there is a very large component of the pyramid as we move up, that is using commercially available products. That's the things we've been talking about in all the other webinars in this series is, are there tools available out in the world that someone is already manufacturing that I can just purchase and use? If I can, great, because that's easy, it's quick, and we can move forward. Then and again, we're moving towards the top of this pyramid. Then we get to another chunk of the pyramid near the top. That is taking things that we purchase and doing something to them, modifying them, customizing them, combining them together, using two things that maybe have two different needs together so that we can meet the specific need of this individual with a disability. And so that becomes that next step. And then finally, the very top, dare I say the tippy top of the pyramid, the smallest piece is, yes, do we go forward and design and build something custom for that person? We hold off to the very end because that is time consuming. That could be expensive, and it might require a various amount of iterations of that product to get it to work for someone. So that is something that is a very small chunk of this, but sometimes necessary. And you're going to see some of that as we go through today, some of those examples of things that were built to meet a specific need for somebody. And so when we think about building something, creating something, we have to stop for a second and ask ourselves these questions. Does it already exist? Let's think about the chart that I just showed you with the pyramid. Is it commercially available, or can I get the same result from commercially available products that I smash together and use in a creative way? So then we look at, does it exist? Yes. Is it affordable? Can I get it? Does it still need to be modified? If not, if it doesn't exist in the marketplace, then we're at the top of this pyramid at that point. We're thinking about designing and fabricating something custom. But even with that, in that part of the pyramid now, we do have questions now that we can ask. Is there something out there on the internet? The internet is our friend. If someone's built it, maybe it lives out there already. Has someone built it, and have they put the plans up online? If you've ever gone to the website Instructables, that is where people create things out of different materials and they put the plans up online and you can download them and make something. Does something exist out there? Is there something in a 3D printed catalog out there that we can use? And we'll show some of these. Does something exist? Richard says in the chat, which is a really good point. Go to Amazon. Amazon, because they connect to a lot of different little sellers, you might find some really kind of, I'm going to call them off the wall ideas out there. But when I mean off the wall, what I mean by that is like little one-off ideas that you wouldn't think is available, but someone has come up with an idea and they're willing to resell it. Etsy, another great place, because you have people that are makers making things. And a lot of times they are one-offs. And then YouTube, go to YouTube and see if there's something out there that someone has created and they want to share with the world. It's a really great question as we go forward and think about it. Yeah, so I see that. Thank you. Melanie pointed out that there was a question. Sorry, Michelle, I didn't see your question in the chat. Out of all the boxes I had open, I had that one not open. I apologize. Think about this idea of, Michelle wanted to know, think about examples within the hierarchy of this kind of chart here. If you think about this idea, an alternate way to do the task, if someone is required to answer the phone, is that a critical component of their job? So this becomes part of a task analysis conversation and a job analysis in this instance that I'm talking about. Is that critical to their job? If that's the piece that is a struggle for me, are there other things I can put in place? Can I route the person's phone through the computer and they can use a headset to answer it and they don't need to use the actual office phone? Can I find some alternate way or reassign tasks to someone else? Commercially available products, pretty straightforward. If you can find it and you can buy it, you can have it. That little chunk that we go in that middle there, Michelle, is about this whole idea of thinking about things that are out there. And I wish I had added this slide in because we could have used this picture. An example of something like that, I performed a job accommodation for someone in a information and referral booth. This person was in a wheelchair, and the booth entrance was not wide enough for their wheelchair, so they couldn't get in it. But we noticed that the information booth was made up of cabinets that made a circle that were screwed together. And we were able to take parts that wouldn't normally be on this booth and put them together. We added heavy-duty door hinges and heavy-duty casters to the bottom of one of the sections. And now we're able to take a section of that information booth and swing it out of the way so the person can enter the booth. They're always working with another coworker, so that other coworker has been trained on how to do this for them. And they're always in there with someone else. So now that booth can be opened up, person can enter and position themselves for work, and then the booth can be closed again. And so those are, hinges are not that creative on their own. Wheels are not creative on their own, but putting those together in this situation, in this circumstance to meet that person's needs became the AT solution they needed. And so those kind of are ways to look at this example of, are there things, and I could probably talk about this topic for like hours on end because I'm by training an engineer, so I love stuff like this. I am that person that walks the aisles of Home Depot, just looking around, just soaking it all in. Go down the PVC aisle, go down the hardware aisle, and just walk around. And as something grabbed me, like, ooh, I could use that for, and then I add something in. And so that when I'm thinking about this hierarchy is what I'm talking about as we go forward. If you want to make things, this goes back to the engineer in me, makes me nervous. Okay, you want to make things, great, let's do that. Can you make it? Be very honest with yourself. Do you have the skills and the material to do that? And is it cost effective? Sometimes it doesn't make sense to make something if you can buy something similar. A lot of times people want to make something because something's really expensive. Like, well, I'll just make it, which is fine until you're like 3 days into it and your workshop in your garage or shed is a complete mess because you haven't been able to pull everything together to make it. Is it safe if you are creating something that could potentially create a safety hazard for someone? You should not do that. And so think about that. The reason some products are expensive is because they've been tested and they've gone through some of this. So there is an assurance that these things will be safe when someone uses them. if you go through, and that last one says, is it intuitive or customizable? Could someone else be able to set it up, use it, and troubleshoot it? And can it be adapted for others? So what's the flexibility of someone you need? There's something you make. If I make something very complex that a team can't use or a consumer can't use, how well have I done meeting their needs? I don't know that I've done a very good job because they might not be able to use it unless I'm there. And so thinking about that as you go through. Let's show you some examples and then we'll open it up and we'll have some conversation. One of my favorite Einstein quotes, imagination more important than knowledge. This idea of thinking about creative ways to do that. We'll show you examples of things you could make in these areas. Corrugated plastic, PVC, molded plastic, cardboard, plastic, wood, and then our affectionately termed other stuff as we go forward. And so as we think about this, corrugated plastic, if you're not sure what corrugated plastic is, it's what they make all of those election signs out of. So you think about election signs when you get to that time of the year, and they're that plastic that's got the lines going through it, and they print things on the front of them. That is corrugated plastic. You can buy that at Home Depot. You can buy it on Amazon. It's not super cheap, but it is cheap enough that you could use it. But there is an entire industry in assistive technology about creating things out of corrugated plastic. We have one example there that someone took a piece of corrugated plastic from a sign and duct tape. Yes, the MVP of this webinar will be duct tape, by the way. They have created a book slant board out of corrugated plastic, duct tape, and black binder clips. This is where I want to live my life, in this kind of modification. And they have cut it and positioned it and taped it together in a way that it's created what is really, you think about it from this side view, this is a height adjustable, an angle adjustable book holder, because I can remove those clips and slide that back brace along the feet, and it will adjust the angle of how this sits, and that is all from corrugated plastic. We gave you a link to a book here on the slide from Therese Wilkham. It's called Make Stuff and Love People. Therese is one of the gurus of corrugated plastic, and there's a picture from her book that shows another piece of corrugated plastic. Therese is the director. So we have the ATX in all the states. I'm the director of our program. Therese is the director of the New Hampshire program. And so that's where these people all start to connect together. And she is one of those people who collects this corrugated plastic. You'd be surprised how many election campaigns have signs left over after the election that they're just begging to get rid of. They've bought boxes of them and they don't use them. Go there and ask, can I have your old signs? And then you get these stacks of corrugated plastic you need to figure out how to use and how to store and where to put them. But you could make these things with it. Any number of things. Teresa's book has a wealth of information about different devices you can create with corrugated plastic and things like that. PVC, another favorite. How could you go wrong? PVC, relatively inexpensive, incredibly flexible in what you can do with it. Couple examples here on the screen. The top right is a tablet holder that's been created out of some PVC pipe and some connectors, some angled connectors, some elbow connectors, just created the shape you need. In the center of the slide is a tablet holder, a different tablet holder. And that picture along the bottom is actually a link to a PDF that shows you the directions on how to make that PVC holder. That tablet holder. That's the one I use. I was looking for it before. It's usually on my desk. I don't know where it is. I think it's in a bucket from a training. That's the one I use. And then even on the right, on the left there, is someone took 2 pieces of PVC pipe and created a pencil holder out of it. Great. Very flexible, very creative ways that you can think of how to use this stuff with the cutter. The bottom right corner is a cutter, a PVC cutter, about $10. And you can cut this to any shape and size you want. A piece of PVC, this is 1/2-inch PVC. A 10-foot piece is probably $3, maybe $4. The connectors maybe 50 cents a piece, 60 cents a piece. You can start putting these things together and think of really good ways to use those. I see in the chat, wait, I'm going to drop it in. Where's the link to the book? Here's the book. There's the PVC. There's that. And that was the question. Perfect. Thinking about what you could make with PVC. So I was just telling Naomi, this just popped up on Twitter as I was going through it. And this was a school for kids with, it looks like kids with pretty significant physical disabilities. And they've created PVC stands in the room that can hold different things. The piece on the left is for a snowball fight. So they have a mount on the floor with a leaf blower that is electric, that is hooked to a switch, and the PVC is holding the leaf blower. Here, just so you can, I don't know that you need the sound. If you too want to launch things across a room with PVC as your stand, I'm here for it, if that's what you're going to do. Another example of PVC is this one I also saw on Twitter. Let's get it to pop up. This was, they made what is in essence a shower stall out of PVC and then filled up balloons in it. And the student is pushing a switch to push a fan up to push the balloons up in the air. But PVC is what they made that whole thing out of, PVC and cellophane plastic. So think about these ideas of what you could create. Those are pieces of PVC. So you're talking maybe about $10 worth of PVC. And that's cellophane plastic you can buy at the dollar store for a roll for $1. Just run it down the side and just use wire ties to hold it together. But I love this idea of creatively building something that you might use. Jen, these ideas are great. They're the coolest thing. And it's really nothing more than just thinking about, well, wouldn't it be cool if, I love when someone in a room that I'm in or an organization, I go somewhere and they're like, wouldn't it be cool if AT did this? I'm like, well, sure. Well, then why can't it do that? Let's figure out a way to do that. And so you see some of these examples, engaging activities. That student on the left that's launching things out of that blower, I'm down for that event. That looks fun. That student looks like they're having a blast. It looks scary at times when it happens, but it looks fun. And so you're engaging them with some of these things you create. And the other thing I like to remind people with PVC, don't glue it together. Don't glue it together. Then you can collapse it and put it away, or you can use the parts for something else. Rarely do I glue these things together. I really just press them together and then check them every once in a while. These are, in the bigger scheme of things, these two examples are not a safety issue. One is holding a blower, one is holding itself up. So we don't have to worry about, is it safe? We do have to make sure it doesn't tip over on someone. So in that case, we need to be careful, but the way you can make them, you can be very creative with these ideas. I'm not sure if anybody's ever played with moldable plastic. This is a product called Instamorph. It's the example on the left-hand side there is what it looks like. It's a bag. It is little plastic pellets. You drop them in hot water and they melt. And they give you a blob of plastic that then you can mold things out of. The examples on the right-hand side are things molded out of Instamorph. There are larger zipper handles that someone could grab onto that is just molded plastic that was molded around the existing zipper handle. And then when it cooled and dried, it's hard. A key holder on the top right, a holder for someone's phone on their wrist. So they made an entire cuff out of that, out of moldable plastic. You can buy that on Amazon. You can buy little bags of it. That the picture of the Instamorph will take you to an Amazon page to buy some if you'd like. The video shows you how it melted. Basically, just put it in hot water. Give it a couple seconds, it turns clear, and then you take it out. It cools enough to touch, and then you can start molding it to whatever you want. The best part about Instamorph, if you're done with whatever you made or it's not working, drop it in hot water again, and it will gel up one more time, and then you can mold it into something else. So a really flexible option that you can make, again, on the fly to do things you might need. Maybe a grip for a pencil. I love the key grip on that picture because those are great examples. And even the zipper, those are examples of very practical AT solutions. Could I buy that? Sure. I could buy a key adapter. I could buy a zipper adapter, but I also might have a bag of Instamorph on my shelf that I can drop a handful into some water and mold it real fast and just be done and just move forward. So really cool examples of things you can do. I'm not going to play the
Demystifying
video.
it.
You guys can watch the video. The video's in the slides. Just wanted you to see. Here's other stuff. You can make with anything. Look at on the right-hand side. That is pieces of cardboard. Take every Amazon box that's floating around your house and start cutting it up into a shape and then rubber band it together. And you made yourself a tablet mount. Does it look pretty? Eh, maybe not in that form. Color it. Put duct tape on the edge of it. Put colored duct tape. Take shelf liner. I have classrooms where they take shelf liner and put it on the sides. Great. Do whatever you want. What I want to get across to you is that things don't have to be expensive. You need scissors or a knife and a cardboard box, and you can make stuff. And so if Instamorph scares you, if PVC scares you, if using corrugated plastic scares you, maybe cardboard is your mode. And so think about that as you go forward. You could always make something for a first try in cardboard and then find someone else who's more comfortable with other materials, and they could make you something a little more permanent. The good thing about cardboard, it doesn't work. You just keep cutting it a little bit more until it works, and then you have the right spot. On the left-hand side, you see two items that were purchased, but they are connected with something that was new to them. It was a cuff for a hand and a paintbrush. In between, in the red circle there, is a flexible hose. It's a plastic hose. They use it a lot in manufacturing to push air through or to push liquid through. In air, maybe to blow things off of machines as they're cutting. But it's flexible and you can bend it. But once you get it to a spot that you want, you can push those links together and they kind of lock in. So I have now an adjustable cuff that I can hook to a paintbrush or a stylus or a pencil or a crayon, whatever it might be. And suddenly I have something I can use for a bunch of people, the same device, by just modifying how they're using it. That stuff is really cool. Again, Amazon really becomes your friend because they're connected to a lot of these other organizations that will sell that kind of flexible plastic hose is what you're looking for. That's not super cheap, but it is super, I was going to say flexible. That seems obnoxious. Flexible in how you can use it. It has a lot of potential for choices. Yeah, people in the chat are talking about looking at 3D animations. We can talk about that online. Richard mentions 3D animations, going to a website and putting a bunch of information in and seeing how something might work to see if it's going to be functional. Billy talks about sponges and stress balls. Everything you get for free from things. Whenever I go to a conference and they give me free stuff, I throw it in a bag and I'm like, how can I take this apart when I go home or put it with something else and use it? A stress ball is great. Pop a hole through the center of it and stick a pen in it, and now it's a grip for a pen or a stylus or a paintbrush. Any of these things can be, an adapter for anything. So just thinking about creatively, what do you have around? I've already told you, I'm that guy walking aimlessly through Home Depot with no real plan. I'm also that guy walking through the dollar store with no real plan. Just up and down the aisles. What grabs me? I have stuff I've purchased at the dollar store that I have not used yet. It just sits in a little bucket, a little bin in my shed. And when I'm about to make something, I'll go to the little bucket. Do I have something in that bucket that I can use to modify to make something that I need for AT? If you feel a little bit more comfortable with your building skills, you can start making things with other materials: wood, metal, plastic. You have to have a little higher skill set for this, but you might be able to. These are some examples of some job accommodations that I created when I was out there doing direct service for customers around the state, for consumers. And on the left, that is a woman who was working in a office environment who needed to have a reclining chair. And so her employer bought her this chair, which is a fantastic chair, but it's really heavy and it has electric motors attached to it. And she was not able to swivel away from her desk to get in and out of it independently. So we built her a giant lazy Susan that sat underneath her chair that allowed her to swivel out of the way. She could swivel and pivot to get away from her chair and then swivel back. So we took a chair that did not swivel and made it a swivel chair out of wood, just a wood shelf at the bottom. The lady on the bottom left, one of my favorite examples of a job accommodation was someone who was working at a fast food restaurant, this is a Burger King, making the salads every day. All of the work surfaces at the Burger King were too high when she was in her manual wheelchair. And we weren't able to modify the table because they didn't want us to do that. They wanted the tables on wheels so that they could move them around and stuff. So we took a wire shelf that we bought at Home Depot and we mounted it to the legs of the chair with some U-bolts. So we didn't drill into the table, but simply U-bolted it, and made her a tray that was lower. Think of your keyboard tray at your desk. You might have one where your keyboard comes out from under your desk and it gives you a lower place to type. Same idea. It gave her a work surface that was lower. And then in essence, it gave her two work surfaces where she could leave things at the top and work at the bottom, which was at the right height for her wheelchair. And then finally, the device on the right is 3 pictures of the same device. A woman working in a department store who needed to take shirts and pants. This was for pants. She had another one for shirts. She'd take pants that would come in from the manufacturers in a box wrapped in plastic. She had to unwrap them and put them on the hangers, and the hangers had the pinchers like a clothespin on them. And the struggle she was having was she had very good use of one hand and very limited use of her other hand. She couldn't pinch open the hanger and slide the pants in it simultaneously. She could do one or the other, but not both. And so we made her something that Velcroed to the table that she placed the hanger in, and it had a really big arm on it. And you pulled the arm down and it locked in place and it left the hangers open. And then you simply slide the pants in where you want it. When you got the pants positioned, you would release the handle and the clips would clip closed and you'd hang it on the shelf and you'd go to the next one. Again, thinking about creative ways to solve a problem. The thing I like about some of these, and I think it was every situation here, the one commonality, you see there are very different needs here. The one commonality about these 3 people, these were people that were dangerously close to losing those jobs because they couldn't complete the tasks. And these little fixtures and little ideas were the difference between them not having a job and having a job. And so that makes that really powerful. What a great kind of example of AT and how that could help you. As we move forward, the fun part of where we're at now is we don't always need to create things like this from scratch anymore. Like that hanger fixture on the right there that I made out of plastic and screwed it together with metal. Now we have 3D printers. And there's a lot of 3D printers out in the world now. And do you have one? Great. If you do, start making something. If you don't have one, there's a lot of places in the community that maybe have 3D printers. High schools and colleges, you look for STEAM programs, engineering programs. There are some community maker spaces where you can rent time on equipment to make something, or you can go there with a desire to have something printed. They will print it for you for a cost. That might work. Look for disability organizations, maybe even your local library. They might have printers that you can use because once you have a printer or access to a printer, you can print just about anything. This is a website called Thingiverse. If you've never heard of it, Thingiverse. So like universe, but Thingiverse. All we did was go on there and type in the word assistive technology and hit search, and look what comes up. People have made things already. You can go to any one of these pages and you can click on it, and the files are already there for your 3D printer. All you have to do is load that into your 3D printer and hit print, and it's going to start printing. You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to design the file. The file's already been designed. It's already available out there. These things live out there. These things on here, people are putting it out there. Most of them, if not all, are free. There might be some where they charge you for the files, but most are going to be free. There's a key turner, there's a zipper thing, there's an adapted mouse, a bag holder, any of these things that exist out there in the world that someone has already created. All you need is access to the printer in order to print it. And so how do you find those connections? Because these things are out there. There are organizations out there that might help. Look at, this is an organization, a volunteer organization called AT Makers, atmakers.org. Bill Binko, he owns the company called Lesson Picks, which is an assistive technology company. He does this on the side. This is kind of his passion project. And AT Makers, ideally, what they do is connect people. I'm a person with a disability and I need something made for me. Oh, I'm an engineer and I know how to make things. Let's connect you. And that's the part that's missing sometimes, is the connection. There are people that make things and people that need things made. We need to find ways to build that bridge to help them find each other. And so even on AT Makers, they will connect you to local organizations or groups that might be willing to make things for you. They might come out with plans of how to make your own things. This example on the slide here from AT Makers is a switch box. Now, if you're a person who buys assistive technology, I can buy a switch box, but to buy that switch box is probably a few $100s. The box here that's been designed from AT Makers, even with the circuit board, is probably a $20 item, maybe $25. So if I find the right people in my community who understand how to solder a board and print a box, I suddenly have a switch adapter that someone I'm working with can plug into their computer. So those are the kind of connections we need to make, either AT Makers or another group called Makers Making Change. This group is out of Canada, but they have lots of people in the US that work with them as well. They do a couple things on this website, Makers Making Change. They have project plans up there that you can download and print things. So if you have a printer already, you can download them. They also have a spot on their website where I, as a person with a disability, could go on there and say, I need something made for me, and here's what I need, and describe it. And then you'll have somebody who will be a creator of something, may write and say, I think I have the skills to do that for you. Let's connect. And then you connect and you figure it out. Those people are out there. You know, I think with the explosion of 3D printers and STEAM programs and engineering and these kinds of ideas, we have a bit of a struggle with, are the people in those programs, I'm about to pull a soapbox out and get on it, so be ready. Are the people in those programs doing things that matter with the skills they're developing? I get very frustrated when I go to a STEAM program and they're making keychains. I get that there is a part of learning the process that is making keychains and stuff like that. There's a point where that has to shift, and no longer am I making just stuff, a keychain, but instead I'm trying to solve real world problems for people who need things made. I'm always amazed because, and I always say to people, you know, people with disabilities, people that I know, people that I work with, they have problems that need solving. You're a problem solver. Why are you not talking to each other? You have to get together and figure that out. So reach out to these community organizations, reach out to a local community college, reach out to a high school, ask them if they have a STEAM program, ask them if they have a 3D printer, ask them if they'd like to collaborate on a project. Multiply your efforts. It'd be great to get one switch box like I showed you. Wouldn't it be great to get one? Wouldn't it be great if there was an entire electronics class that made you 15 of them or 10 of them? And I'm very realistic. I did a lot of these community partnerships in my time, and you may get 15 and you may get 7 workable ones, and that's fine because it's 7 more than I had. But it's a good experience. It helps the students recognize and critically think about real world problems and how to solve them. I think that's really a powerful situation. All right, soapbox pushed back under my desk. Finally, we have a bunch of links. of things that you saw in the webinar, and then even some other ones as you go forward that you can click on and find out. Let me see if the link is there. Let me go back to the, I know Naomi's going to put it in the slide, but I'm going to go back to the QR code in case you want that. There you go. Questions or thoughts? We tried to answer them as we went. Melanie pops back on. It gets very serious and Melanie pops back on. I get ready. Jackie says, wondering if you could help or anyone here could help. In my school district, we are working on an AT maker position in our AT department. Any suggestions or thoughts on what to have in the job duties or description? Oh, that's such a great question. To bring someone in as a maker is really exciting. Jackie, this idea of what would that job duties be? Well, I think one would have to be creative. I feel like that would be the number one thing. I think you would probably, depending on what you wanted that person to work in, what medium you wanted them to be making things in, you would ask things like, do you have skills in these areas? You know, do you have skills with 3D printers? Do you have skills with hand tools? You know, those kind of things. Do you have experience with people with disabilities? I think there is a kind of a fine balance there of maker skills and empathy and understanding and having an experience with people with disabilities to understand how you do those things. Please email me. That's a really interesting conversation. And I think probably longer than what we have right now. Wait, I don't even know my own email address. Wait a second. Oh, I spelt it wrong. Hold on. Sorry, Melanie. I feel you looking at me.
No.
There you go.
Hi.
Email me. I would love to chat with you about that because that's really interesting. Question, where can I volunteer? Richard, I love those kind of questions. Where can people volunteer? Richard, go to Makers Making Change and put yourself down on there as a volunteer, that you're willing to do that. And then you would be listed on their map for someone. I'm going to guess you live in New Jersey. I don't know that, Richard. I'm making an assumption, but you could say, hey, I live here and I'm willing to help. And here's some of the skills I have. And so thinking about that could be how you reach out to the larger community. I think that would be awesome. Sorry, I sent my email address only to Naomi, and I know she has my email already. Sorry, there's my email in the chat. Richard, I love the fact that you're willing to volunteer for stuff like that. I think this is how we can affect change with this kind of creativity and you know, this idea of 3D printers are only going to become cheaper. They're only going to become more prevalent and different things. So we need people thinking about, oh, that is really a powerful thing for AT. I was laughing with Naomi and Melanie before we started. I was trying to find you, all of you, a picture, a throwback picture of me working in the back of the van I used to work in that had a workshop in it. And that was the way I would make some of those modifications that you saw. Now you don't have to do that anymore. I have a 3D printer sitting next to my desk right now. I can just do that. And so it's a really great opportunity for us in AT to think broadly and widely about what we do.
Mike, I actually dropped a link in the chat. Well, actually, I didn't drop a link. I did drop a suggestion in the chat section. I know I'm out of Gloucester County, and our local libraries actually have something that they call the Maker Studios.
Love it.
And I believe there's a few libraries, at least in our county, and I'm sure we're not the only county that has that, but they have 3D printers that you can sign up and use. And I'll be honest, I have not ever used one, but the cost seems very reasonable. I think it's for a standard color, it was like 35 cents for up to 15 minutes. So what's that, $1.40 an hour to use? Yeah. And then in preparation for you and Naomi to be presenting this, I wanted to become a little bit more knowledgeable in some of the different assistive technology options out there. And when we're looking up the DIY assistive technology options, Pinterest has an incredible amount of resources and suggestions that other people have actually right? Went about making. So you can, I just typed in 3D printer as an example, and you would see, right? People are making pencil holders, or making phone holders, or making devices that they can use to pop pills out of a blister pack, for example. So it really is endless. And I think just like our chat section, Pinterest is also one of those sites that we can sort of learn from each other,
Yeah.
and maybe get some additional support. So
I
definitely
think
check
it's
out your
great.
local library.
Yeah, for sure. And you might even have, I know locally to me, there is a storefront business that is a community maker space. You can go in there, just like you said, for the library, and I can rent time on a whole array of tools, a 3D printer, an engraver, a wood burner. I mean, there's all kinds of, I'm sure there's insurance things I have to fill out to do that, but the idea is I have access. I don't have to buy those things myself, but maybe just buy the time, and do it that way. And I think that's really powerful. It's made it really inexpensive. Like you said, Melanie, if I could do an hour at my library and it's 35 cents for every 15 minutes and I can print something in an hour, I have some 18 and it only cost me a couple bucks.
Exactly, right? I
Yeah.
think we see some of these devices that are just look so cool to use,
Yeah.
and we're drawn to them. I know that I've bought assistive technology devices for my son, and even devices that would help me around the house, and you get them after investing a lot of money. You're like, not really serving the need. That it was great looking, right? It was attractive and cool. They got me to buy it, but it didn't really serve the purpose that we needed it to serve.
Right.
So I think for us, it's really, your lending library, for example, similar to the library, go out and try those things, see if it's going to serve your need. If it is, right, maybe that's all we need, right? Maybe we just need that occasional visit to the library or the maker studio that you were referencing.
Exactly. Or a local high school,
Exactly.
like anything else, they have these things. And if students are in that class, I'd like to think that those educators are desperate for things to work on, to continue to engage them in the learning throughout. So why not connect them to
Absolutely.
others? Yeah,
Absolutely.
I love it.
And it looks like Naomi, as always, has been on that chat section addressing everyone's questions and needs. So I'm not seeing anything outstanding in the chat. I know that you were monitoring the question and answer. Mike did share his email address, and Naomi, if you want to do the same in the chat section, please do. Just so everyone knows, I will absolutely drop a link in a follow-up email that you can expect in about 24 hours. So it's going to probably be sent around noontime tomorrow. In that follow-up email, you're going to notice it's going to have a link to the PowerPoint, and in that PowerPoint, you're going to have all the resources that Mike and Naomi were able to share with you today, as well as Mike and Naomi's contacts and the CLEP team through Rutgers University, the Community Living Education Project's contacts also. So whether you're looking for additional resources or support in assistive technology, Mike, Naomi are your people. If you're looking for information and exploring community living options, please feel free to reach out to the contacts that you'll find in that email for CLEP. Also, please feel free to respond to that email with any additional suggestion in regards to future webinars. We would love to hear that. Mike, Naomi are going to be doing open mic sessions, which is really exciting, right? So bring all your resources, all of your success stories, and all your questions. It's going to be open mic. We're going to schedule about an hour every other month moving forward with Mike and Naomi. And then we're also going to have Tech It Out sessions, which I'm super excited about, where Mike and Naomi will also highlight different devices to specific areas of life. So I believe the first one's going to be for reading and writing. Mike and Naomi.
Back to the slide, but yeah, I think you're right. Right.
So we will be sending those registration links out probably over the next couple of weeks. So please look for that. If you have any other suggestions, you're going to see a quick survey pop up on your screen as we're saying our goodbyes today. It's going to be the information that you offer us that allow us to really plan for future education sessions such as the one today. So we encourage you to take the 30 seconds, fill that out if you would, and share any suggestions that you may have.
Awesome.
Mike, Naomi, as always, thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to our next session. Be well.
Great. We'll see you then. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
See ya.